We go now to Washington, D.C., where we're joined by Democratic Congresswoman Nanette Barragán of California. Let me ask you about the growing rift, the increasingly public dispute between House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and four freshman congresswomen who are known as the Squad: Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and Ayanna Pressley. Pelosi recently told the New York Times all these people have their public whatever and their Twitter world, but they didn't have any following. They're four people, and that's how many votes they got. Yesterday, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez told the Washington Post, when these comments first started, I kind of thought she was keeping the progressive flank at more of an arm's distance in order to protect more moderate members, which I understood. But the persistent singling out, it got to a point where it was just outright disrespectful, the explicit singling out of newly elected women of color. Can we get your response to this? Because certainly it is intensified over the whole issue of immigration.
Yes, there's a lot of tension going on. Certainly, when the House supplemental bill came up versus the Senate supplemental bill came out, we were fighting to get provisions, guardrails, and provisions in there so that we could have some accountability and some oversight. When you're just handing out a blank check, it doesn't feel good. And then you see what's happening at the border, and it only then intensifies why we were fighting so hard to get these provisions in and these guardrails, as I like to call them, in. And so this has been the result of some, disagreement within the party on whether you give a blank check, whether you put the guardrails in there or not. I did not support, in the end, the Senate's version of the bill because it had no oversight provisions. It didn't have the very critical things that we needed as just a first step. And so this is going to be an ongoing issue. Absolutely.
Let me ask you about your response to Congressmember Ocasio-Cortez calling for the Department of Homeland Security to be dismantled. Here she's being interviewed by the New Yorker magazine editor-in-chief, David Remnick, and he asked her if DHS should be abolished.
I think so. I think we need to undo a lot of the egregious mistakes that the Bush administration did. I feel like we are it is a very qualified and supported position, at least in terms of evidence and in terms of being able to make the argument that we never should have created DHS in the early 2000s.
Congressmember Barragán, do you agree? Do you feel the Department of Homeland Security should be abolished?
I happen to sit on the Committee for Homeland Security, and Homeland Security is really big, and I think that is the problem. It oversees everything from the Secret Service, all FEMA rescue and recovery. It does human trafficking. It does, CBP officers at the ports of entry, airports and seaports. They're protecting this country from terrorist threats. So it is very big. And within that, you then have ICE and you have enforcement happening. And so there does need to be serious look at how do we restructure this? How do we break this up? How do we make it so that it's not so big and unmanageable? And we have seen that in various hearings in Homeland Security on the inability to see this really large agency. It's the largest law enforcement agency that does so many factors. So I have serious concerns with enforcement and ICE right now, and I think we certainly need to look at how do we fix these systemic problems and how do we restructure it so that it's not what it is now, which is a lot of abuses of people's rights and violations of human rights at the border.